They say a man's worth is known by his name. His name opens doors. His name is remembered in history books. His name is carved into coins, monuments, flags. But what if a man had no titles? No royal blood? No army, no miracles, no followers behind him, and still, Allah himself spoke about him in the Quran. Not just in passing, but in an entire chapter dedicated to his words. A man remembered not for his power, but for his wisdom. His story does not begin with victory. It begins with a father talking to his son, softly, gently, sincerely. And yet those words spoken in private are now recited on tongues across the world in millions of homes, mosques, and hearts. His name? Luqman. A man whom kings envy, scholars quote, and believers revere not because of what he owned, but because of what he understood. Before we dive into this beautiful legacy, I want to know, from which country are you watching this video? And if you are someone who loves Islam and seeks wisdom from the Quran, do not forget to subscribe and join us on this journey of learning and reflection. Allah, in His infinite mercy and knowledge, could have elevated anyone in the Quran. He could have chosen kings who ruled with iron fists. He could have honored philosophers who amazed the world with their intellect. But He chose Luqman. And in choosing Luqman, Allah taught us a profound truth, that the truest legacy is not built with power or wealth. It is built with wisdom, sincerity, and the fear of Allah. What is remarkable is that Allah does not mention Luqman's lineage. We do not know who his parents were. We do not know the tribe he belonged to, or the land he came from. Unlike Prophet Ibrahim, who was from Ur, or Musa from Egypt, or Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, from Quraysh, Luqman's background is veiled, and in that silence there is wisdom. Because it tells us that it is not your race, status, or homeland that defines your place in the sight of Allah. It is your taqwa, your consciousness of Him, your obedience, your humility. And yet, Luqman's name is preserved for eternity, not because he built cities, not because he fought battles, but because he advised his child in a way that pleased the Creator of the heavens and the earth. Allah says in Surah Luqman, "And we certainly gave Luqman wisdom, be grateful to Allah. And whoever is grateful for himself, and whoever denies, then surely Allah is free of need and praiseworthy." Notice the phrasing, we gave Luqman wisdom, not wealth, not beauty, not fame, wisdom. This is what Allah gives to those He loves, and this is what Allah wants us to pay attention to. But what is wisdom? Is it just knowing right from wrong? Is it experience? Is it intelligence? No. Wisdom in the Quranic sense is far deeper. It is knowing how to act in the right way at the right time with the right intention, all for the sake of Allah. It is speaking when needed and being silent when silence is better. It is understanding people, understanding the self, understanding the Creator. That is why the first expression of Luqman's wisdom is not a quote or a speech, it is an attitude. Be grateful to Allah, because gratitude is the foundation of wisdom. You cannot be truly wise and be ungrateful. Wisdom requires humility, and humility begins when a person realizes that all good comes from Allah. Luqman knew this. He knew that whatever insight he had, whatever clarity of thought he carried, it was a gift, and the best response to a gift from Allah is not arrogance. It is not to say, look at what I've achieved. It is to fall in gratitude and say, "O Allah, you are the one who gave me this." And Allah makes it even clearer. When you are grateful, you do not benefit Allah, you benefit yourself. Gratitude softens the heart, it multiplies blessings, it brings peace. And when a person is ungrateful, they harm no one but themselves, because Allah is not in need of your thanks. He is Al-Ghani, the self-sufficient. He is Al-Hamid, the praiseworthy. If every single creature in the universe were to worship him night and day, it would not increase his kingdom. And if every single one of us turned away from him, it would not diminish him in the least. Luqman understood this. That is why he was grateful. That is why Allah called him wise. But Luqman did not keep this wisdom to himself. He passed it on, and he did not pass it to crowds or courts. He passed it to his son. This is where we begin to see the true character of the man. Many people can impress strangers, many can give lectures on stages, but only the truly sincere can raise their children with the same knowledge and love. When Allah quotes Luqman in the Quran, he says, "And remember when Luqman said to his son while he was advising him, 'O my dear son, do not associate anything with Allah. Indeed, shirk is a great injustice.'" Let us pause here. Allah could have simply said, Luqman told his son, but no. He says, while he was advising him, in Arabic, yati uhu, a word that carries a deep emotional tone. It is not a command, it is heartfelt counsel. A father's words from a place of love, concern, and deep care. And then he uses the phrase, Ya bunayya, O my beloved son, not O boy. Not, you must listen to me. No harshness, just tenderness. How many fathers today use this language with their children? How many sons would melt if they heard that level of affection from their fathers? Luqman knew that wisdom is not just what you say, it is how you say it. And so the first and most important lesson he gives his child is not about money or success or marriage, it is about Allah. He says, do not associate anything with Allah, not because it is just wrong, but because it is an injustice. It is the greatest zulm, wrongdoing. Why is shirk such a terrible injustice? Because it puts creation on the same level as the Creator. It gives love, fear, and trust qualities that belong only to Allah to something else. Whether it is an idol, a human being, a system, or even one's own ego, Luqman teaches his son, the most dangerous thing you can do in life is to disconnect from the one who gave you life. And the worst betrayal is to give your heart to something unworthy of it. This is not just religious doctrine, this is the foundation of a meaningful life. Every corrupt society begins with shirk, because once people stop fearing Allah, they start fearing men. Once they forget to worship Allah, they start worshipping wealth, fame, leaders, or themselves. Luqman understood this. That is why his first advice was not political, not cultural, not academic. It was spiritual. It was about the heart. Because the heart, if it is connected to Allah, will survive any storm. But if the heart is tied to the world, it will drown the moment the world changes. And the world always changes. This is why Luqman's wisdom still echoes today. Because it speaks to the eternal truths of the human soul, and because it began not with lectures, but with love, not with power, but with prayer, not with pride, but with humility before Allah. May Allah allow us to embody that same wisdom, pass it to our children, and protect our hearts from every form of shirk. There is a reason Luqman began with the oneness of Allah. He knew that if the heart is anchored to Tawheed, pure monotheism, then everything else in life will fall into its proper place. But once he warned his son against the greatest injustice, Luqman did not stop there. Because wisdom is not just about theology, it is about how to live with that belief in everyday life. He takes the next step in his son's education, guiding him towards something profound. He speaks of the hidden, the unseen, the seemingly insignificant, yet he links it to the might and justice of Allah. He says to his son, "O my beloved son, if there is anything, even the weight of a mustard seed, and it is hidden inside a rock, or anywhere in the heavens or the earth, Allah will bring it forth. Indeed, Allah is subtle and all-aware." Let those words settle for a moment. Imagine being a young child and hearing your father say that even the smallest, most invisible act hidden away in the darkness of a stone, buried deep inside the earth, or floating in the vastness of the sky, will not escape Allah. that even a mustard seed, the tiniest of seeds known in the ancient world, would not be beyond the reach of his knowledge and justice. This is not just a warning, it is a powerful awakening. It instills in the heart a profound sense of responsibility, of integrity, of inner accountability. Because when a person truly understands that nothing they do, think, or feel is hidden from their Lord, they begin to live differently. Not because they are afraid of people, or the law, or being caught, but because they are aware of the one who sees all, hears all, and knows all. Luqman is building something rare in his son, taqwa, a deep and personal God consciousness. Not the kind of fear that crushes the soul, but the kind that elevates it. He does not tell his son, fear punishment. He does not say, you will be humiliated. Instead, he gently teaches that Allah is subtle and aware. The word latif, subtle, means that Allah is gentle in his dealings, that he sees the finest details, that he operates with mercy even when we do not perceive it. And khabir, all aware, means that he is fully informed. Nothing escapes him, not even our intentions or the whispers of our hearts. What kind of world would we live in if every human being truly believed that every action, no matter how small, is recorded? That every thought has weight? That every injustice, even if buried in stone, will be brought forth on the day when no secret remains hidden? Luqman is not just raising a child, he is preparing a soul for the hereafter. He is building a man who will walk the earth with humility, not because of laws, but because he is being watched by the one who created him. And with that foundation laid, Luqman now moves from belief to practice. He says, O my son, establish the prayer, salah, the daily connection between the servant and his Lord. After affirming Allah's oneness, and after instilling the awareness that Allah sees all, the next logical step is to build a relationship with Allah. And there is no relationship without communication. Salah is not just ritual. It is the anchor of a Muslim's day, the spiritual nourishment of the soul. It is when the believer bows his head, lowers his pride, and speaks directly to the one who gave him life. Luqman does not say pray when you feel like it, or pray if life gets hard. He says establish the prayer, make it firm, make it a permanent part of your life. Do not treat it like a burden, treat it like a lifeline. But Luqman's wisdom is comprehensive. He does not want his son to simply focus on personal worship and forget the world around him. So immediately after commanding him to pray, he says, enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong. This is not just social advice. This is the essence of Islamic responsibility. A believer is not just a servant of Allah in private. He is also a moral light in society. When you see goodness, promote it. When you see corruption, speak against it. When you witness injustice, do not stay silent. Because silence in the face of wrong is not neutrality, it is complicity. Luqman is teaching his son that faith must be lived. It must move from the heart to the tongue, from the tongue to the hands, from private worship to public service. But Luqman knows something else, that when you speak the truth, people will push back. When you stand up for justice, you will be tested. When you forbid evil, those who benefit from it will fight you. And so he concludes, and be patient over whatever befalls you. Indeed, that is from the matters requiring determination. He does not sugarcoat it. He tells his son directly, if you live by these values, life will not always be easy, but patience is the weapon of the believer. Patience in worship, patience in hardship, patience in the face of mockery and rejection. True determination is not proven by moments of strength, it is proven by the ability to endure with dignity. And notice the balance in Luqman's advice. He starts with prayer, your relationship with Allah. Then he teaches social responsibility, your relationship with people. Then he speaks of patience, your relationship with difficulty. This is a complete worldview. A child raised with this understanding does not just survive the world, he transforms it, and he does so without losing his soul. Luqman could have stopped there. He had covered belief, worship, social duty, and inner strength. But wisdom always looks deeper. It examines the subtle things that shape character. And so he continues, "And do not turn your face away from people in arrogance, nor walk upon the earth exultantly. Indeed, Allah does not love every arrogant boaster." This is not just about body language, it is about the heart. When a person turns their face away from people, refusing to acknowledge them, it comes from pride. It says, "You are beneath me." When a person walks with exaggerated movements, seeking to draw attention, it comes from arrogance. It says, "I am above you." But Allah does not love the arrogant. And this is a terrifying thought. Because we all long for Allah's love, we beg for His mercy. But here, He makes it clear, if you are filled with pride, you have placed a barrier between yourself and His love. And pride is subtle. It can creep into how we speak, how we dress, how we react to others. It can hide in the way we criticize, the way we show off our knowledge, our wealth, our status. Luqman warns his son, "Even the way you carry yourself can indicate what is in your heart." Humility is not just a virtue, it is a shield that protects you from spiritual destruction. But Luqman goes further still. He says, "Be moderate in your pace, and lower your voice. Verily, the most repulsive of voices is the braying of donkeys." What a vivid image. Luqman is now talking about balance, about control, about dignity. Moderation in walking reflects balance in life. Do not rush blindly, nor drag your feet in laziness. Walk with purpose, but without arrogance. And lower your voice, not because you are timid, but because dignity lies in calmness. There is a difference between speaking with strength and shouting with pride. When people raise their voices constantly, trying to overpower others, it becomes noise, empty noise. And Luqman compares it to the sound of donkeys, not because donkeys are evil, but because their braying is unpleasant, harsh, and lacking grace. He is teaching his son that how you speak says a lot about who you are. The content of your words matters, but so does the tone. A wise person is not just wise in what he says, but in how he says it. His speech heals, it guides, it soothes. It does not wound or inflate the ego. So let us reflect. Luqman began with belief worship, the one, avoid shirk. Then he instilled inner awareness, Allah sees even the smallest deed. Then he ordered action, pray, promote good, resist evil. He fortified his son's character with patience. Then he shaped his son's manner, be humble, be balanced, be dignified. This is not just parenting, this is prophetic wisdom. And though Luqman was not a prophet, his words have become a legacy greater than many kings and rulers. Luqman's wisdom is not preserved because he ruled a nation. It is preserved because he ruled his own soul and helped shape the soul of the next generation. His teachings echo through the Quran so that every believing parent, every teacher, every youth can listen, reflect, and become better. May Allah make us among those who live with wisdom, who raise our children with love and purpose, and who walk the earth humbly, always connected to Him. There is a difference between teaching a child facts and shaping their soul. Luqman did not only give his son instructions, he sculpted his inner character. And that sculpting continues as Luqman turns his attention to a trait that destroys the hearts of men and empires alike, arrogance. He says to his son, "And do not turn your face away from people in pride, and do not walk upon the earth with arrogance. Surely Allah does not love the arrogant and boastful." These words are heavy. They are not just advice, they are warnings from a father who understands how subtle and poisonous pride can be. Because arrogance is not always loud, it is not always public. Sometimes it hides in the tone of your voice, in the way you ignore others, in how you carry yourself, in how you judge those you consider beneath you. It can be hidden in a slight glance, a lifted eyebrow, a sarcastic smirk. And if it is left unchecked, it grows until it blinds the heart and closes the door to humility, mercy, and ultimately to Allah's pleasure. Luqman knew something very important. He knew that it is easy for a person who becomes religious, successful, or respected to begin seeing themselves as better than others. He knew that once a person starts looking down on others, they start walking on a dangerous path, a path that leads away from sincerity. So he teaches his son to be aware of the way he walks, the way he interacts with people, the way he responds to attention. Because even walking with pride is mentioned in the Quran as a cause of destruction. In Surah Al-Isra, Allah says, "And do not walk upon the earth with arrogance. Indeed, you will never tear the earth apart, and you will never reach the mountains in height." What a profound reminder. No matter how powerful you think you are, your feet cannot crush the earth beneath you. Your head cannot touch the sky. You are still a servant. You are still dust that walks for a while and then returns to dust. Luqman is planting this truth in his son's heart. Never let your blessings deceive you into thinking you are above anyone, because the one who gave them can take them back in an instant. And it is not just about walking, it is about how you face people. When someone greets you, do you acknowledge them? Do you smile? Do you look at them with warmth? Or do you turn your face away in coldness and superiority? The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was the greatest man to ever walk the earth, yet he never turned his face away from someone greeting him until they turned away first. He gave people his full attention. He listened. He humbled himself before children, the poor, the weak, and even his enemies. That is the model of true greatness. Luqman, though not a prophet, is pointing his son to that same path of humility. Because when you learn to walk humbly on the earth, you are also learning to walk humbly toward your Lord. Then, with that same wisdom and foresight, Luqman addresses another subtle sign of character, the way one moves and speaks. He says, "And be moderate in your pace, and lower your voice." Verily, the harshest of sounds is the braying of donkeys. These words might seem simple, but they carry deep psychological and spiritual insight. In a world where people often equate confidence with loudness, where making noise is seen as power, Luqman teaches the opposite. He says, "Balance your steps, control your movement. Do not rush like one who is desperate for attention, and do not drag like one who is lazy and careless. Move with purpose, but with calm. Walk in a way that reflects peace within." That balance in walking is a metaphor for life. Life must also be lived with moderation, not too fast that you lose sight of your values, and not too slow that you waste your time and potential. But then Luqman touches the heart of communication, the voice. He says, "Lower your voice." Not silence, not weakness, but restraint. A loud voice may draw attention, but it does not always earn respect. A person who constantly shouts to be heard often ends up pushing people away. Luqman compares such speech to the sound of a donkey, not because a donkey is evil, but because its voice is unpleasant, abrasive, and jarring to the ear. He is telling his son, "Do not be like that. Let your speech be graceful. Let your voice carry wisdom, not noise." The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was known for his soft, clear, measured speech. He never shouted in the markets. He never raised his voice to humiliate. Even when correcting people, he did so with gentleness. He said, "Verily, gentleness is not found in anything except that it beautifies it, and it is not removed from anything except that it makes it ugly." This is what Luqman is trying to pass on, a way of speaking that beautifies the message, a way of walking that reflects dignity, a way of living that pleases Allah. And what is striking here is that Luqman's advice keeps circling back to the inner state. He is not focused on appearances alone. He is not trying to shape a child who merely acts righteous in public. He is shaping a heart that is humble, grateful, alert, and connected to Allah. And in doing so, he is showing every parent, every teacher, every leader how to truly pass on wisdom. Not by force, not through fear, but through presence, patience, and compassion. That is why his words are preserved in the Quran. That is why his name will never be forgotten. Because his advice was not just for his son, it was for all of us. Now we come to the final part, perhaps the most powerful of all. Why was Luqman chosen by Allah to be mentioned in the Quran, when prophets, kings, and warriors were left unnamed? Why is there an entire surah named after this man who had no miracles, no followers, no revelations? The answer is hidden in everything he represents. Because Luqman is proof that you do not need position to be honored, you do not need titles to be remembered, you do not need a spotlight to be recorded by the one who sees all. All you need is sincerity, wisdom, gratitude, and the courage to speak the truth with love. Allah does not mention Luqman's tribe, his country, or his achievements. Not once does the Quran mention where he lived, how much wealth he had, or who his companions were. Why? Because Allah is teaching us that these details are irrelevant when it comes to true honor. What truly matters is what you say, what you believe, how you raise your children, and how you serve Allah in your corner of the world, quietly, consistently, and humbly. Luqman's legacy is not measured in monuments. It is measured in the generations of Muslims who recite his words, reflect on his advice, and try to walk the path of wisdom. It is measured in the millions of parents who turn to Surah Luqman for guidance. It is measured in the children who learn how to love Allah, respect others, and walk with dignity because of one father's gentle conversation with his son. Allah honored Luqman not for what the world saw, but for what he saw in his heart, and that is the key. If you want to be remembered by the people, seek fame. But if you want to be remembered by Allah, seek sincerity. Let your heart be filled with gratitude. Let your words be a source of healing. Let your life be an example of humility. And even if no one knows your name, Allah will. So when you read Luqman's story, do not just admire it, live it. Teach your children not only to achieve success, but to carry wisdom. Remind yourself and your loved ones that greatness is not about noise, but about purpose. That being mentioned in a book is not as important as being mentioned by the angels. That the real legacy is not what you leave behind in your bank account, but what you leave behind in hearts, minds, and souls. And perhaps, just perhaps, if you live with that same wisdom, if you speak to your children with that same tenderness, if you humble yourself before your Lord with that same sincerity, then on the day of judgment, when names are called and scrolls are opened, your name, like the name of Luqman, will be mentioned with honor by the one whose remembrance never fades. May Allah make us among those who embody the wisdom of Luqman, who speak with gentleness, walk with humility, and live with sincerity. May He guide our hearts, bless our families, and make our children righteous, grateful, and wise. And may we all be granted a legacy that lives on not just in the world, but in the sight of the Most High.